don't think we could ask for better conditions here at Watkins Glen.
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful down here on pit lane. It's actually the warmest it's been for these drivers, 70 degrees. We've been running, as you guys all know, 85, 95 all year long. A beautiful 70 degrees down here. Blue skies, a fantastic day, excellent weather for this penultimate weekend for the Indy Lights Series.
The 12 drivers have cleared the boot. They're driving over the West Tunnel and setting up for the final couple corners before they jump on the accelerator. It is the left-hander of turn number 10. The alignment looks really good. Santi Urrutia will be the driver that controls the start. Those 12 drivers clear that left-hander of turn number 10. Then they set up for that final tricky turn 11. It's kind of a downhill, a little bit of banking. The field makes their way through slowly at parade lap speed. The starter has the green flag. We'll wait to see if this is a clean start or not. The alignment looks good. Green flag is in the air, and a nice jump for Santi Urrutia. Field roars across the start-finish line for the first time. Urrutia will protect the inside. It looks like Zach Veach, the man on the move. He'll jump into second place, Jake, as they clear turn number 1.
As a matter of fact, a lot of shuffling going on. Shelby Blackstock, I think it was, got left hung out to dry. Urrutia getting all kinds of activity from Zach Veach out of turn number 2. Veach now will go to the outside in turn 3, side by side, coming at you, Dave, first.
It is an 1,800-foot backstretch, and here they come, now making that right-hander into the boot. A little tire smoke out back. It is Zach Veach leading the way. Zach Veach over the 55 of Santi Urrutia as they head to the carousel.
Well, the field will start to make their way now into the boot. That is turn number 6 as the field roars down that hill. Zach Veach, 3 car lengths ahead of Santi Urrutia from 5th to 1st. Car number 5 for Bellardi Racing. Zach Veach now handles the toe of the boot. The field strung out single file all the way back through the top 12 cars. There's Zach Veach with the 4 car length advantage now over Urrutia. Negrao is 4th, and 3rd, and Jones is 4th, and then it's Kyle Kaiser 5th. They make that right-hander into turn number 9. The field cleanly through the first time around.
One car slow. It is one of those championship contenders. It is Felix Sorales, and we saw a little bit of debris at the exit of the bus stop. One of the Homacho safety crew members has walked out of the racetrack and retrieved it. You've got a lot of time to do that here at Watkins Glen, but Tony, what a start for Zach Veach.
That's an incredible start from Veach. He went 5th to 1st in the first lap, as we see Sorales is able to make it into the pit lane despite that first lap damage. You don't get those kind of moves very often, and we noted on pit lane that he had a bit of mechanical concern. Not there. What a rocket start for Zach.
Jake, big gap for Zach Veach after lap number 1.
Yeah, and now a lot more stability behind him. Single file behind the leader. Veach goes by, then it's Urrutia. He is followed in the 3rd place by Kyle Kaiser. Field, as a matter of fact, a battle going on for 3rd. I think Kaiser might have to give up that spot, Dave.
Yeah, Kyle Kaiser's moving up. No one's moved up like Zach Veach as they head through the bus stop. It's Veach, Santi Urrutia, the 11 of Ed Jones, then the 17 machine of Andre Negrao. Through the carousel cleanly, now they head to the boot.
Well, for this field, it will be managing those Cooper tires. That will be the key. This new racing surface here at Watkins Glen International taking its toll for all the series this race weekend. But for Zach Veach, he's clean through turn number 7. Now a 10-car length advantage as he sweeps wide. It's Zach Veach, then Santi Urrutia. Then the machine of Ed Jones still hangs in there for 3rd. Andre Negrao will be 4th. Kyle Kaiser is 5th. Dean Stoneman in 6th. The field now making their way through turn number 8. Good-looking group as the field basically about 5 to 6 car lengths between each of the runners.
Rob Howden, not the way Felix Sorales wanted to start this day here at Watkins Glen.
You know, well, the guy that still has a mathematical chance to win this championship, not what he needed. And it wasn't a puncture either. It was actually a big tear to the left rear on that Cooper. I'm going to make the assumption that we had some kind of contact, someone's front wing getting into the back there of the left rear of Felix Sorales. He's in, they made the change, he's back on the racetrack. He's going to need a full course yellow here to get him back in the hunt, though.
Let's go to Jim Murphy. You've got more on that opening lap accident.
Actually, I've got the other half of it. Zachary Clayman DeMello was in. They had to change the front wing. He was missing the right side of that front wing. Funny thing, that matches the hole in the tire that Rob just mentioned.
Tony, you got to see a chance to see the replay. We still see a lot of debris, thankfully off of the racing line, but a lot of carnage from that opening lap.
It was an interesting contact between DeMello and Sorales coming up the hill there. And the problem is we see Neil Alberico almost lock it up going into the bus stop as he's battling with Dean Stoneman for position. contact, it was going to be an important start. Guys needed to make the moves early because you're going to get, the cars will get too spread out here. It's a very difficult place to pass. We've heard a lot of drivers note that there's really only one or two good opportunities to go around. So guys were aggressive. I mean, we saw Zach move up 4 spots. We saw Urrutia, who you just saw there, move up 5. Dalton Kellett gained a couple positions as well. I mean, these are important laps early on.
And they certainly carry so much speed through the S's that when you're nose to tail on a start like that, those inches become millimeters very quick.
Oh, hugely. And I mean, you know, we talk about the IndyCar average speeds, 146. These Indy Lights cars are going pretty quickly as well. They're going about 129, 130 miles an hour for average speed themselves. And that's no small margin themselves. They're flying out there.
Zach Veach is the leader, makes his way through the left-hander of turn number 10, and then sets up for turn number 11, back out of the front straightaway to complete lap number 3. Here's how the top 5 looks. It's Veach, Urrutia, Jones, Negrao, and Kaiser, Jake, the top 5, as the leader, Zach Veach, arcs his way into turn number 1.
You know, when you work that way, that right-hander of turn number 1, there's a temptation to go a little bit too wide. I think that can let you get hung out just a little bit. Veach is one of those that did not obviously do that. Urrutia behind him, then Jones, Negrao and Kaiser. That front 5, Dave, has really started to separate itself.
It's interesting to note just really how much downforce Zach Veach has on the number 5 machine for Velarde Auto Racing, and how much tire he might be able to scrub off by the end of this as Dalton Kellett runs through the runoff area through the bus stop. He's going to lose several spots here as they head to the carousel, but Zach Veach telling me earlier it's all about downforce and how much you have here as they head to the boot. Michael Young.
Zach Veach, that lead now starting to shrink ever so slightly. Santi Urrutia able to make up about 3 car lengths the last time around. It's still an 8 car length advantage for Zach Veach, but Santi Urrutia starting to make his presence known. Then Ed Jones about the same distance back from the second place running Santi Urrutia. Negrao and now Kyle Kaiser starting to close in on that 4th position.
Tony, starting to see a good battle develop for 4th there with the 17 of Negrao and the 18 of Kyle Kaiser.
Good to see Andre come back there after he lost a bit of, he did not have a very good start there. He started second but fell back a bit. We're also to the point where on lap 3 and lap 4, and we're going to start possibly seeing drivers need to get into tire conservation mode. That's been a big topic in the paddock this weekend. And really, this is where I think a guy like Zach Veach could excel, because Zach's had a lot of races throughout his career, both in the old car and the current Dallara Mazda, where he lost a race based on that a few years ago, and now he's trying to save it here. The gap's pretty much stabilizing. We've seen Urrutia now go to first in the 134s, 134.869. So they're only about a second or so off of qualifying time. So we'll see. It'll be very interesting to watch how the lap times develop from here.
Dave, first, Santi Urrutia did just turn his fastest lap of the race, though, as he tries to run down Zach Veach.
Yeah, but I don't think he's really made up any ground on Zach Veach. That distance about 3 or 4 car lengths now. Further back in the field, Garrett Chris, Dalton Kellett, who lost a couple of spots, and now Shelby Blackstock trying to put a little pressure on his teammate, Dalton Kellett.
Well, whatever he did it not as well as he'd like to. Santi Urrutia lost about 4 or 5 car lengths, so Zach Veach able to gap himself over Urrutia that last time around. Now Ed Jones starting to close in on the Urrutia machine. That battle for 4th between Negrao and Kaiser settling down about a 10 car length gap between 4th and 5th place, and it's Stoneman. Nice run thus far for Neil Alberico. He's up to the 7th position, started dead last in this field, so for Neil, this would be a win just to get himself at least close to that top 5.
Zach Veach got a really good run out of turn number 10, and then now setting up for turn number 11. In fact, a gap that was about 5 or 6 car lengths. Boy, he stretched it out to maybe 10 or 15 down the front straightaway. That gap goes from 0.7 of a second to 1.9 seconds. So Jake Query, great last lap for the leader, Zach Veach.
There's a series known as drifters, which are cars that put on the exhibition of just sliding on tires through a turn. It's kind of like watching the drifters between turns 1 and 2 here. You can't allow yourself to let that car get too far away from you. Dave, bottom line, Zach Veach has yet to do anything like that. He's on rails right now up front.
I tend to believe that Veach really made up a lot of time through the bus stop here as they head into turn 5. He talked a lot about how technical this portion is. And if you don't get this section right, man, that could really cost you. And I think it did that last time around for Santi Urrutia, as Shelby Blackstock and Dalton Kellett now make contact through the bus stop. Kellett going to lose a lot of ground and has some damage to the front end of that 28 machine. And now he comes to a stop as he runs over his front wing. Dalton Kellett now limping through the carousel, back under fire. We'll see here right now. It's a local caution right after the bus stop in turn 5.
Tony, rule number 1 is take care of your teammates out there. Shelby Blackstock and Dalton Kellett, they were battling for the 9th position. And boy, that's not the way either one of those drivers wanted to approach the bus stop.
No, and go figure that the two of these guys have contact. They have more track experience than most of the field here, to be honest. Shelby's raced here in sports cars, and they both tested an Indy car for Michael Andretti a couple weeks ago. But that's not something you can do. You just can't make that kind of mistake. The thing I'm wondering, Nick, is look at how much debris is out on the track. You got a wing coming out of the bus stop. We actually have local crews out dispatching it, getting it away right now. There's still that debris up in the S's area. I hope nobody runs over it because, cut tires, what that could lead to, and go from there. So nonetheless, we see it's clear now at the corner exit, and on we go.
Yeah, Dave first tipping the cap to the whole Matro safety crew. Again, this is a massive track, and with just 12 drivers out there, a lot of time for the crew to go out there and pick up at least the larger chunks of the debris.
And it was a pretty good chunk. In fact, it was a front wing. The entire front wing assembly for Dalton Kellett as now the leaders make their way back through the bus stop and back through the carousel. That battle, by the way, for 4th, not going anywhere. Kyle Kaiser still sitting behind Andre Negrao for 5th place.
One starts to wonder if maybe Santi Urrutia is starting to use those tires or was a little aggressive on his tire usage early in this event. As Kyle Kaiser, that battle for 5th, we were talking about Kaiser moving in on the ground for 4th, but it's really shaping up that battle for 3rd. Ed Jones now closes down to about 4 car lengths. I'm not saying Santi Urrutia is struggling, but he's certainly not as strong as he was the opening stages of this race. As they make their way through turn number 8, it's Urrutia 2nd, Jones 3rd by 3 car lengths.
No problems for Zach Veach, who was out front by 2.9 seconds. But again, that battle for 2nd is getting awful tight. Veach makes his way through the left-hander of turn number 10 and then back onto the front straightaway for turn number 11. All eyes, though, quickly shift to that battle for 2nd as Santi Urrutia, the points leader, has his hands full with the driver who's trying to run him down in Ed Jones across the start-finish line to complete lap number 7. Jake thinks tightening up there for 2nd.
Yeah, Veach has all kinds of room. Let's call it 15 to 20 car lengths. But you are correct. Urrutia has Jones right there. And just as Jones is trying to close in on that 55 machine, he's got to worry about the fact that Andre Negrao is just behind him as they work their way out of turn number 4.
Zach Veach, if he looks in his mirrors, he's not going to see anything as he heads through the bus stop. Now we see Santi Urrutia. Now we see Ed Jones. Jones pursuing Santi Urrutia not only in the race today, but ultimately the points championship. Further back, Dean Stoneman, he missed entry into the bus stop just a little bit, had to get off the gas. Same story for his teammate, Shelby Blackstock. I tell you what, it's awfully fun to watch these guys try to motor, make their way through this bus stop here at Watkins Glen.
For those who know Zach Veach know he's a pretty easygoing guy, but he's been extra calm, cool, and collected this weekend, perhaps because he knew he had a great race car. As Santi Urrutia now and Ed Jones, the gap between the leader Zach Veach and Santi Urrutia 2nd, that 2-second gap. Jones unable to close up any more on Urrutia as Negrao and Kaiser, that battle for 4th and 5th, everybody evenly spaced as they make their way to turn number 9.
Let's go ahead and clean up that incident involving Dalton Kellett and Shelby Blackstock. Jim Murphy, Dalton Kellett made his way to pit lane moments ago in front of you.
He came to the attention of the Andretti Autosport K-Line team. They did a nose change on the front of that car. That was the routine part of the stop. He did manage to stall the car on the way out, trying to make sure that he was still on the lead lap. That is still in question because as he was here, they took a good look at that left front tire. There was visible blistering all over that tire. In fact, I have a set of front tires laid out for him with a jack, possibly expecting him back here shortly. Rob Howden?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this is going to be an interesting development here, guys. We got to start looking at some of these lap times because, you're talking a little bit here about potential trouble with some blistering tires. These guys are kind of backing off a little bit. The fastest driver last couple laps was actually Shelby Blackstock. He's still pushing very hard. You got to wonder, guys, what the guys are doing up front. Veach, Urrutia, Jones, DeGraw. Are they backing off a little bit? Are they trying to conserve tires a little bit here right now? Especially when you see a guy like Blackstock, who really hasn't been that quick throughout the weekend, turning the fastest laps of the race. I got to think these leaders are trying to take care of these tires in a big way here.
Tony, you shook your head in agreement as soon as you heard Rob mention about keeping an eye on those lap times.
Yeah, Rob, Nick, I've been following. I mean, they were started out in 34s, and now we're already starting to get into mid-35s, low to high 36s, and we're only on lap 8 of a 25-lap race. This is such a big test for these drivers because this is how they're going to progress into IndyCar, hopefully, someday, is how do you manage it? And it's weird. With the repave, everybody's talked about, oh, this track is so great. But the problem is that you only have such limited life at the start of a cycle. If you're going through a heat cycle, you need to get them up to temperature. Santi I do actually worry about because Santi only ran 12 laps in practice combined. He only shook the tires in the first session, ran 10 laps in the second. And right now he's at the point where this is going to be the longest stint he does all weekend is this 25-lap run. So we'll see how that goes. And Rob, we'll see if you have more on that.
I'll tell you, interestingly, Tony, down here, we never, of course, see anybody have tires laid out for these Indy Lights races. They're always up on top of the trailer. They have tires laid out set to go here for Santi Urrutia. Not out onto the pit lane, but they have the fronts and the rears ready to go should they need them. It's not something we normally see. We may see some pit stops here in this event.
9 laps in the books. It's Zach Veach, your leader, by 4.1 seconds. His pace has been awful impressive. Dave first, second place, getting awful tight.
Nice little battle developing as Ed Jones continues to chase down Santi Urrutia. Don't forget about Andre DeGraw after a podium finish in Mid-Ohio a couple of weeks ago. Battle for second brewing here between Urrutia, Jones, and DeGraw.
And for Zach Veach, he has checked out. He's already to the toe of the boot through the center of the corner. The battle there for second, third, and now fourth as Andre DeGraw closes in on the rear wing of Ed Jones. As Zach Veach halfway down into turn number 8, the rest of the field now out of the toe. Santi Urrutia about 5 car lengths, then it's Ed Jones, another 5 car lengths to Andre DeGraw. Kyle Kaiser not falling off the pace, but he's about 8 car lengths back from that 4th place position.
You got to think that Zach Veach is being told just how intense this battle for second is starting to develop, because with a 4.8 second lead might be an opportunity for that Bilardi Auto Racing driver to cool those tires just a bit. Veach out of turn number 11 and heads for the start-finish line to complete lap number 9. All eyes, though, on a great battle. Second, third, and fourth. They're all separated, Jake Query, by about 3 or 4 car lengths as that battle second through fifth heads to turn number 1.
Zach Veach towards the bottom of the hill, already into turn number 2. Urrutia now working his way down that elevation change, now back uphill. You can visibly see Ed Jones start to close in at the exit of turn number 2. He is now right on the heels, taking a hard look at Santi Urrutia.
At nose to tail as they set up for the bus stop, and now Jones to the outside, takes a peek, but falls back in line right behind Santi Urrutia. No move that time for Ed Jones. It still puts pressure on for second place.
To give you an idea how big this 3.37 mile circuit is as far as catching the tail of the field, Dalton Kellett, who had to make that stop for that front wing. Zach Veach, as that's Kellett going by right now. Kellett's in the heel and Veach is in the toe, so he certainly closed that gap, and Zach Veach might see Dalton Kellett in another 6 to 10 laps. Close to the end of this race, but for Santi Urrutia, Ed Jones and Andre DeGraw, that battle continues. Second, third, and fourth. They make their way to the heel of the boot in turn number 8. Cleanly through as Kyle Kaiser makes up a couple of car lengths on Andre DeGraw for fourth.
Boy, Tony, things got awful tight there in the bus stop between Urrutia and Jones.
Oh my goodness, Nick. I mean, Ed Jones is the meat in a Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports sandwich at the moment. He's the only Carlin driver, and it's interesting, this isn't the first time you've seen the rear wing of Santi Urrutia. That spin that Santi mentioned at the top of the show, Ed was not a happy camper at the end of qualifying afterwards, and he was concerned that there was a possible infringement there. As it turned out, Santi's original pole time was taken away, but his second fastest lap on his in-lap was just enough to secure that top spot. We'll see if that makes a big difference for the points championship.
Second through fifth, Jake Query still awful tight through the S's.
awful tight is an awfully accurate way of saying it. As a matter of fact, Jones, this is the area of the track, Dave, where it looked like he was going to be able to make a move on Santi Urrutia, but once again, the distance, to your point, about the same as last time by.
Yeah, you'd think Ed Jones maybe has a little less downforce than Santi Urrutia does, but it's single file, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Urrutia, Jones, Negrao, and Kyle Kaiser.
And for Zach Veach, the love of these traditional road courses, these heritage IndyCar circuits. He, of course, won at Road America about a month or so ago, dominating here thus far at Watkins Glen International. As Veach makes his way out of turn number 7, he goes by, again, those gaps between second, third, and fourth, really not changing much at all, as we see Kyle Kaiser now starting to close in a little bit on the machine of Andre Negrao. That battle still looking good, although we can see these lap times slowly starting to fall as these crews and these drivers start to make their way through these turns to toe in the heel. They're not going through as quickly as they had at the start of this race.
No problems for Zach Veach, though. He has a 5.1 second lead as he comes across the start-finish line to complete lap number 12. Let's get a sweep of pit lane. We'll start with Rob Howden.
Yeah, Nick, had a quick chat with Kent Boyer, wondering if they're going to get any kind of feedback from Zach Veach in terms of how these tires are handling. Zach's telling him things are great right now, and Kent just kept saying to him, run this pace. This pace is good. We're going to be able to lead and pull away with this pace. Stay with it. They came into this race with a plan, take care of the tires, get out front, and right now, everything is working good. Let's go down to Murph.
I checked in with Tim Neff, who's looking over the car of Santi Urrutia in terms of telemetry and the screen. However, his attention has not been on his driver. It's the driver behind him, the 11 car of Ed Jones. He has been absolutely fascinated on the screen with the left rear tire, and even went out to the pit wall at one point to go by and watch it in person. I believe they're watching the wear, the visible wear on that, to whether or not Ed Jones is going to be a continued threat or whether he's going to have to back off to conserve those rear tires.
Yeah, Tony, no doubt about it. For Santi Urrutia, his focus is not on winning this race. It's just those 3 hungry lions roaring down, trying to run him down for that second spot.
Yeah, and when you look at the positioning, Nick, Santi's in a position where he is, again, known to be aggressive on tires. He pushes hard early and often, whereas Ed's more methodical over the course of the stint. So if Santi can stay in front of him for the rest of this race, he's going to be able to not just have the finishing position, but the momentum going into next week. So this is a really pivotal stage here. This could define his championship.
This is the Indy Lights Series presented by Cooper Tires on the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network. A 25-lap race here from Watkins Glen, as Tony talked about. Just 3 races left, 2 after this one is completed here in the next half hour. Very tight championship battle. Santiago Urrutia came into this weekend as the points leader. He sits in second position. Ed Jones, who sits second in points, he runs in third, and the leader, Zach Veach, is the guy that Tony needed the most work. He still mathematically has a chance to win this title, but came into this weekend 6th. Right now, shaping up to be a big weekend for him.
It's a Lloyd Christmas type moment. You're telling me you got a chance. So, and Zach has done just that right now. I would like to see Ed Jones. If he can get close enough, I want to see him make a move. I want to see him do something that is, knowing the pressure, knowing where he's at in the championship. He hasn't had a podium finish on a road course since the first race at the Grand Prix of Indianapolis back in May when he won. His last 5, he's gone 4th, 13th, 6th, and 11th. This is a very big race for Ed, and hopefully he's managed his tires enough to where he can save it for one final run at the end.
We've reached the halfway point of this race, Tony, after seeing 2nd through 5th. All of these guys turn a handful of laps around here at Watkins Glen. It seems to me, is the bus stop probably the spot that Ed Jones is going to have to take advantage of to get Urrutia?
I think so. That's where you can really gain a lot of time on corner entry. You can break deeper, hopefully go in through there flat out. I mean, where you hit the curbs is a really interesting point in that corner. I watched some of the IndyCar practice down there this morning. As we see right there's Santi with a big lockup coming out of the boot into turn 9. That's another trouble spot too. And as Rob can relate, there's going to be a lot of drama to come.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob Howden.
I was going to say, some of the drama maybe further back in the pack as well. We're watching these guys up front take care of their tires. 136 4s, 136 6s. You look down to 10th position and the guy who's trying to claw his way back up. Last time by, Felix Sorrellas, a 134.9, over a second and a half faster than the leaders in terms of how hard he's pushing. We'll see what's going to happen to these tires because Felix has pushed as hard as he can, but he knows he can catch up to at least Kristen Blackstock. You never know what's going to happen. He's trying to claw back for anything he possibly can get.
Zach Veach has already made his way down into the back straightaway. But Dave, first, keep your eye on those drivers behind him. Ed Jones trying to run down Santi Urrutia.
I tell you, every time I see Zach Veach head my way, I'm thinking that's got to be a back marker because there's so much room between him and Ed Jones. Ed Jones, by the way, he's around Urrutia as he makes a play for second. So move Ed Jones to second, Santi Urrutia falls to third, and Grau Kaiser still the top 5.
Yeah, that last time by, you could really see Santi Urrutia struggle out of turn number 8. Ed Jones already able to gap himself by 5 car lengths over now third place running Santi Urrutia, your points leader. Jones swings wide out of the toe of the boot and now headed down to turn number 8. Now for Santi Urrutia, it's holding off Andre Negrau. Negrau within 4 car lengths as Kyle Kaiser takes a look to the inside of Andre Negrau. Nearly locks him up into turn number 8. Good run for Kyle Kaiser. That battle continues for 4.
The gap for Ed Jones back to Santi Urrutia is now about 4 or 5 car lengths as he has gapped himself pretty nicely as he sets up for the left-hander of turn number 10, slides that car through the corner. Santi Urrutia now starting to fall back into the graces of his teammate Andre Negrau, but he certainly has his hands full with 5th place running Kyle Kaiser. Leader Zach Veach has already completed lap number 15. The 2nd through 5th battle rages on, Jake Query, into turn number 1.
This is the area of the track coming out of turn number 2 where it seemed as though Jones finally pulled up alongside Urrutia, then set him up for that pass when he got in front of Dave first. But Urrutia now has Andre Negrau trying to do the exact same thing. Negrau trying to work his way into third.
Got to think that Urrutia's tires have started to go away. He's so aggressive on those Cooper tires as he lights it up, and guess what? Andre Negrau gets him for third place as they head through the bus stop. So it's Veach, Jones, Negrau, Urrutia, the top 4.
Zach Veach already through turn number 6. We'll see the rest of the field as now they make their way through the middle portion of turn number 6, the top of the boot. Ed Jones, now Andre Negrau, Kyle Kaiser starting to close in the rear wing of Santi Urrutia. That will be the battle for 4th as Jones now swings wide, Negrau swings wide, Kyle Kaiser right on the rear wing of Santi Urrutia. Kaiser last time by tried to get around Negrau, setting up Santi Urrutia turn number 8. At the heel, it's Kyle Kaiser around Santi Urrutia for 4th.
So Jones has gotten by into 2nd, Negrau has moved into 3rd, Kaiser to 4th, and Santi Urrutia, Rob Howden, the points leader, has been kicked all the way back to 5th.
Guys, let me set the stage down here. You know how happy this Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports team gets when Santi's out front. Looking over at Tim Neff and his crew right now, their faces are solemn. They are not happy with what they're seeing here right now, and I think Tony DeZinno hit it pretty good early on in the broadcast when he talked about the fact that Santi Urrutia has not done anything close to a long run all weekend. He sat on pit lane for much of the time. I think his longest run might have been the 4-lap run he did in qualifying. This could be coming back to bite him right now as this car does not look good here as we're working our way into the second half of this race.
9 laps to go here at Watkins Glen. Tony, I'll admit, when I saw Santi Urrutia grab the pole this morning, I thought, uh-oh, he might stink up the show like he's done so often this season. That just hasn't been the case, although he started from pole.
No, the variable of a new road course and then just that whole management sequence, we've talked about it. It's not just the positions he's lost, I got to tell you, Nick, it's the points. So just a few laps ago, Santi was leading Ed by 20 points. Ed got by, went to 14. Then it went to 11 when Negrau got by. And I thought, okay, he's got Negrau at least as a backer, essentially. He's not in the championship race. Kaiser's got by too. Kaiser still has that admittedly remote, but still a championship chance. The lead is now down to 9 between Santi Urrutia and Ed Jones with just 9 laps to go. So it's been a dramatic last few laps here, and we have not seen what we saw at Mid-Ohio a couple weeks ago.
And as you mentioned, looking at those points, the biggest mover right now, Jim Murphy, would be Zach Veach. He would move from 6th to 4th in the standings, and as of right now, as they run, 39 markers behind the points leader.
Well, moving up to 4th in the points is nice, but he's leading the race, and that's what's got Brian Bellardi smiling. How is your driver feeling about the car as we get into the final stint here?
He says the car feels really well. It's really well balanced. He's doing a great job managing tires right now. He's maintaining the gap, so we have 8 laps to go, so we just got to hang in there and try and finish this one.
What did you think of that first lap?
That was a wonderful start. That was impressive. I was a little bit worried, quite honestly, but he was able to pull it off. He's fantastic at starting a race.
Big smiles down here with the guys from Brian Bellardi, in stark contrast, as Rob Howden mentioned, to others on pit lane.
You know, Tony, Jim Murphy brings up a great point because we kind of focused in on the carnage of that first lap, but boy, Zach Veach went from 5th to 1st on the opening lap. You don't see that very often in Watkins Glen.
No, you don't. And speaking of moves, as we look a little further back in the field, we see a battle between Neil Alberico and Dean Stoneman. Zach is even Alberico running wide through there.
Yeah, through the grass there. Yeah, Dave, first, Alberico was trying to get around the 27 of Dean Stoneman, took the long way around there.
Yeah, it was a battle for 8th until Sorales took the long way around, got off course and over the curbs as well, and then started porpoising as he went back through the grass to head to turn 5. Lost a lot of ground up here at the exit of the bus stop.
7.0 seconds right now, though, Tony, for Zach Veach over Ed Jones.
Right, Nick, and to tie up that point on Zach, that was his moment. That was his one chance where the field was going to be so close going into the first couple turns. You had to make that move either going around the outside or through the inside of turn 1. It is wide enough. You've got that huge runoff on corner exit there. So even if you do run a little wide, you can come back on. So he knew this was his moment. And it's weird to think about because I'm not sure he's actually raced here before. If it is, it's an impressive outing. Bellardi's never won here, and not to knock on wood, but Andretti and Schmidt have had the last 4 years worth of wins here, so it'd be nice to see a different team on top of the top step of the podium.
The gap is 6.8 seconds. Jake, 2nd through 5th, starting to spread out a little bit there through the S's.
It's a little more honest now than it was, let's say, 5 laps ago. That second position of Jones. Then you've got Negrão. You wait a little bit before Kaiser. Oh, we've got one off, and that's Urrutia. As a matter of fact, I could see that front left tire, that Cooper tire, was starting to shred itself. He got bumped up over the curbing here. Santi Urrutia, fortunately, gets out of the way, but the entire field nearly is going to get past him as Santi Urrutia limps his way out of turn number 4.
Yep. Dean Stoneman gets around him, as does the 22 of Neil Alberico and Shelby Blackstock. We continue to wait to see where Santi Urrutia is. And yep, that left front is torn to bits as now he has to drive through the shortcut here at the bus stop. It is all the way down to the cords. I don't know if he's going to make it, guys, as Garrett Grist gets around as well.
Michael Young, you keep an eye on it. Let us know if something happens to that left front tire. But Jake Query, that was a major moment for the points leader.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, it was when he hit the curbing. You could tell it was coming out of turn number 2. He simply got wide, couldn't get it back on track, went through the grass. Then I think it was that curbing that hit that Cooper tire that was already going away. Right now, there are 2 major pieces of debris in the middle of this racetrack coming out of turn number 2 at the top of the hill. That's something they're going to have to get cleaned up here before they get back to this entire field running on a green flag track.
Just got a replay. Looks like that left front tire came apart up through the S's, Michael Young, as Santi Urrutia, the points leader, trying to limp it back to pit lane.
That Cooper tire is flapping. They just cut a piece of that front wing off. Nothing left of that front left for Santi Urrutia. So the front wing gone. If he can nurse that back to pit road, it'll be a masterful job by Santi Urrutia as he crawls through the heel of the boot and up to turn number 9. As he said, right in front of me as that Cooper tire, the tread came apart, took off that front ring. Tough break for our points leader.
Absolutely incredible. And Tony, he's doing what he has to do right now. He's the points leader with 2 races left. He's got to get that car back to pit lane as fast as possible.
Just a stunning turn of events, Nick. And I'm actually quite impressed that Santi has managed to limp it back as well as he has, because he was allowed to take the second shortcut there coming off the carousel to go on the NASCAR portion of the course. But he went through the full boot, and now as he makes it into the pit lane, he's going to be able to keep it in one piece. Unfortunately, enough cars have pitted to where they're going to be able to get by. That might drop him to 12th. As it stands, the lead is now 3 points. It's probably going to be less if and when he loses further positions.
Slow crawl down onto pit lane for Santi Urrutia as he will come to a stop right in front of, who do we have on pit lane? I would assume Rob Howden. You can see, have your eyes on that Soul Red Mazda number 55.
Nick, I'm right here. They're going to do both of the front tires, of course, try to give him a little more chance to get maybe caught at the tail of the field. Looks like they may change the front wing as well. So the flapping tire has damaged that front wing, potentially a front wing change as well. They'll drop the car down. Still watching to see if they're going to do or not. Further up the pit lane, guys. Let's go over to Jim Murphy right now because I think Kellett's come in for new rubber as well.
Dalton Kellett is going to get a pair of new rear tires. They're going to start back there. And unlike the IndyCar teams, they have only 2 tire changers over the wall. So this takes a little bit longer, Rob Howden.
Yeah, it's going to be a full set of tires here for Santi Urrutia and that front wing change. So major work here on the number 55 of Urrutia. And guys, we talk about this championship. Could you believe this was going to happen? He looked so good throughout the weekend here, qualified on pole, but everything has gone the wrong way for Santi Urrutia.
Here's another championship caveat, Tony. Dean Stoneman was running in the 5th position. He just lost 2 spots in turn number 1.
That's not something you see every day. Usually Dean's the one that's on the charge, not the one that's getting overtaken. And Neil Alberico and Shelby Blackstock both using a bit of track experience. They both run here in other categories to go to the inside. Dean, this is his first race here, even though he's tested, and that's a big loss for him. He was just only 19 points back, but now that's going to drop him 2 further spots. And Nick, I mean, that's another crazy bit that's affected him.
Just 5 laps to go. Zach Veach's lead is dwindling a bit. It's down from 7 seconds down to 5.8, but certainly he can nurse that car around for these final few laps to try to bring home his 2nd win of the season. Couple more updates from pit lane. First with Rob Howden.
Hey, Nick, how about Felix Sorales trying to come after that issue he had early on in the race? He's one of the fastest drivers on the racetrack still. He's 2 seconds quicker than Neil Alberico and only 4.6 seconds back. He runs 8th right now. If we're talking about championship, Felix trying to keep himself in there as well, as he may have a chance at 6th position here.
How about Jim Murphy? You're down there as well.
Let's keep an eye on Dalton Kellett when they go back green here. He may be starting from the back, but he has fresh tires all the way around on that car. No damage, unlike Santi Urrutia, whose car did take a couple of hard wallops into the fence. So it could be pretty exciting for a couple of laps with fresh rubber on the car of Dalton Kellett. And meantime, we've got another car laying out for tires. That's going to be Dean Stoneman.
Yeah, so Stoneman, we saw him get passed by a couple different drivers. Right now, he runs in the 7th position. Tony, the points as they run, though, up there in that right corner of the screen, things getting awful tight at the top.
As it stands right now, Santi Urrutia is 2 points clear of Ed Jones. Dean Stoneman 3rd, 22 back. Zach Veach is up to 4th, as we've mentioned. And Felix Sorales hanging in there, as is Kyle Kaiser. Still within range, top 6, 41 points. I mean, this Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tire Series. Chris Pantani, I believe, is off-site this weekend, but he'll be here next weekend. I mean, what a championship show. And I was wondering if something was going to happen to Santi. That is what was going to have to bring it back to the field. That's what's happened. What a race, what a moment.
Michael Young, Dean Stoneman trying to hold on for everything he's got for 7th position.
And it's not going to happen, as Felix Sorales will get around him in the toe. Great pass by Felix Sorales as Dean Stoneman puff him so he actually got off course at the exit of the toe there in turn number 7. Stoneman struggling, as Murphy had said. Jim said laying out for tires. He is hanging on for dear life. And as Rob Howden said, this entire race, I've been watching Felix Sorales. That kid is fast.
The pace is absolutely gone, though, on that 27 car. 3 laps to go, Jake Query. Zach Veach makes his way out of turn number 1, the leader.
You know, it's funny. When he works his way out of turn number 1, like any car from this vantage point, it almost looks like they are completely off the throttle. That's because they're setting up for that turn number 2. Zach Veach, Dave First, has done that masterfully today. If those tires are going to go away and anybody's going to... time would be now, but it doesn't look to be the case for Zach Veach.
Yep, Zach Veach going by me now, and then you got to wait several moments before you get into 2nd, 3rd, and 4th between Jones, Negrao, and Kaiser. Zach Veach, masterful here at Watkins Glen, knew what he had to do at the start and has stayed in front, managed the tires as well. What a job for the kid. Zach Veach continues to lead.
And that insult to injury for Santi Urrutia. Zachary Clayman DeMello just got around him. For Zach Veach, a great job coming from 1st, or should say 5th to 1st on that opening lap. Now enters turn number 8. Ed Jones, Andre Negrao, Kyle Kaiser. That's 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And then we have to go a long way back for that 5th running machine of Neil Alberico, starting to get a look from Shelby Blackstock. He starts to close in for that 5th position.
Tony, I'm scratching my head a bit with Dean Stoneman. Sure, the pace wasn't there. He had fallen back to 8th. He just went to pit lane to change tires. Garrett Grist passed him. Clayman DeMello passed him. That's 2 spots spots and some valuable points.
I'm like you, Nick. I'm a bit surprised with that because if you went back, pit stops are not something we do in Indy Lights, and so this is kind of uncharted territory. Now, this is not the first time Stoneman's done this year. He did this at Road America to great effect, but that was different conditions. It was wet, then he switched to dries, and I think he was able to make up quite a bit of time there. But at this stage in the race, to risk that and possibly going a lap down, Zach Veach is just behind him as we go into the bus stop. There's 2 to 3 more points, and you don't think about it now, but again, with 2 more races to go, what could happen?
Santi Urrutia lost that 11th position to Dalton Kellett. He now runs shotgun, dead last on the field, and now that advantage is just 1 marker over Ed Jones. 24 back to Dean Stoneman, 31 back to Zach Veach, who makes his way. He's behind Dean Stoneman, who is on those fresh tires, but Michael Young, things looking pretty good for Zach Veach. That gap back to Ed Jones continues to dwindle, but still a comfortable 4.5 seconds.
Yeah, you can visibly see that gap starting to close a little bit. Stoneman not able to really gap Zach Veach, even with those fresh Cooper tires. So for Zach Veach, just now entering turn number 8, Ed Jones is right there. That gap has closed tremendously that last time around. I don't know if Zach Veach went into conservation mode, but Ed Jones is starting to make a charge for the lead.
He's got plenty of gap back to Ed Jones. In fact, he's got the entire straightaway between the exit of turn number 9 and the entrance of turn number 10. Here comes Zach Veach, arcs his way through the right-hander of turn number 11, back out of the front straightaway, and he will see the white flag here at Watkins Glen. Zach Veach into turn number 1, Jake Query trying to pick up win number 2 on the season.
A guy who was destined to try to end up in the Verizon IndyCar Series. Didn't work out for him, sat back and watched racing for a bit, and then decided, you know what, I want to be in a car, and that series that I'm going to do it is, of course, the Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires. Day first, Zach Veach is on his way to getting a win here at Watkins Glen.
Maybe there's something about these classic road courses that really play into the hands of Zach Veach. Earlier this year, a win, a historic road course at Road America. His only other win just could come at Watkins Glen. The 21-year-old from Stockdale, Ohio, leads here in the final lap at the Glen.
What a team this Brian Bellardi and Zach Veach have made. He's given him that opportunity. Talking about team owner Brian Bellardi and Zach Veach back in the cockpit again. If he will ever get an opportunity to drive in the Verizon IndyCar Series, he had to get back into a car, as Jake Query had said, and he has taken advantage of it this afternoon. From 5th to 1st on the opening lap, through the toe of the boot for the final time, Zach Veach makes his way into turn number 9.
2 more corners to go for Zach Veach. He came into this race 53 points behind the championship leader, Santi Urrutia. He's poised to knock off 22 of those markers with just 2 races to go. Sets up for the final corner, turn number 11, back out in the front straightaway. He'll see the checkered flag, and Zach Veach will pick up 2nd win of the season as he wins at Watkins Glen International in the Indy Lights Series presented by Cooper Tires. Ed Jones across the line with a very deserving and well-earned 2nd place finish. He'll close to within just 1 point of the championship leader. Andre Negrao finishes 3rd, Kyle Kaiser 4th, and Neil Alberico picks up a top 5 finish.
The Mazda Indy Lights, the Grand Prix of Watkins Glen, presented by Cooper Tires, is now complete. We're in Victory Lane, and sometimes there's a lot of liquids flowing around in Victory Lane, and sometimes it's tears. Zach Veach, you got out of that car with tears in your eyes. Your father, Roger, same for him as well. Why does this race mean so much to you right now, late in the season?
Just because, we've been through so much this year. And honestly, at the start of this race, we didn't even know if we were going to get to be in it because we had a starter failure. So my guys, they did an incredible job getting it changed and basically got me to the grid with 5 minutes to go. So we knew that we had to win to stay in this championship hunt. Now we put a little more pressure on ourselves because if we win at Laguna, we might win the championship, but we just got to keep going and keep with the same mental attitude that we have right now.
Now, pressure's a good thing. You seem to thrive under it, and with your win and Santiago Urrutia's very bad luck, that definitely tightens the championship up mentally. We all know you're going to be focused going into Laguna Seca, but can you explain exactly how tense these next 5 days are going to be leading up to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca?
The next 5 days are going to be tense for me, but for another reason. I got an IndyCar test to focus on. I'm not even thinking about Mazda Raceway right now, but on my drive from Sonoma to Mazda Raceway Thursday night, I'll definitely be having my mind back here where it needs to be.
2nd win this season here at Watkins Glen International for Zach Veach. Zach, congratulations. We'll see you at Mazda Raceway.
Thank you so much.